Welcome to Astoria Film Festival Presents, our weekly half-hour program featuring our films, filmmakers, events, and the local community. Today we're continuing our series on Queens nonprofits with a look at Entrepreneur Space and the QEDC. The QEDC, or the Queens Economic Development Corporation, is run by Executive Director Seth Bornstein. It helps develop the local economy of Queens by supporting small businesses around the Queens neighborhoods. The Entrepreneur Space in Long Island City is one of the QEDC's programs. The Entrepreneur Space in Long Island City is an innovative incubator that provides a home to emerging businesses and organizations seeking a commercial kitchen, small office space, and/or classrooms. Clients receive business counseling, technical assistance, and networking opportunities, all as part of their fees. Astoria Film Festival is a member of Entrepreneur Space. Promotional funding for Queens nonprofits was provided by a grant from the NYC Company Foundation and the Queensborough President's Office of Cultural Affairs.
It was built in 1959 by two brothers who did high-end ship furniture. So we have a picture of the Cleveland, which was one of their ships, and then where it starts, which is important in the food industry, is the Consortium for Worker Education, which started a baking program teaching people how to bake professionally. So in other words, it wasn't for teaching them how to bake in their house. We wanted to take home cooks who wanted to get jobs in the baking industry. After 10 years of funding got cut, job training programs had to end, and at that point I had been working with them, and we had done a part-time incubator. After the job training programs, we rented out the evening shifts to startup businesses. Some of the people who had been in the classes who really wanted to take it as their own business.
So great.
And then when they had to leave, I talked Seth Bornstein of QEDC into jumping on board and becoming the parent organization. So we just took it from there, and once QEDC took it on, it became a full-fledged incubator top to bottom. The people needed to have a space if they wanted to have their own business. They needed that part-time kitchen space. With the kitchen, I mean, people can always build their own kitchen, they can rent a small space, but we're talking about them easily spending $50,000 between the rent and deposits and buying equipment and doing all the build out and everything else. Part of the price that you pay is not only for the equipment and the utilities and the carting and the cleaning supplies, is the fact that each shift you get one of our staff to help you for 2 hours. We teach them how to be efficient in using the space, efficient in their time, producing more in a shift, which means that they're going to gain more revenue. We expect you to do 10 dozen cookies the first time you come in. The second time you come in, I'm expecting 15 dozen, 20 dozen. A year later, I'm expecting you to knock out 50 and 60 or 100 dozen cookies at the same time. Yep. You know, in that same 8-hour period. And it will make the difference because that's what's going to make it profitable for you. We have 105 clients currently under contract. We have somebody who specializes in finances, so he'll teach people how to do a P&L. He was a former loan officer, so he will review people's loans and help you get into the right area. He can help write some business plans for you, especially the financial side. We have another person who does strictly marketing. She has her own advertising marketing agency. The other counselors, we have people who will help register the business. We have people who are involved in Queens local development areas, so is Rego Park looking for certain things, they would know. A lot of counseling, and which means that you don't have to pay for any of it, number one. That you don't have to stay with one counselor. You can go to all the different counselors and see. You don't have to be locked in saying, oh, I can only use one person once. No, you can use somebody 10 times and go to somebody else for 2 times. Whatever. The counseling is like having what I call an older sister. I often tell people, when you come here, it's like your older sister. She took you to school when you were in kindergarten, holding your hand all the way. When you got to first grade, she took you to school just holding your hand when you crossed the street. By the time you were in second grade, she said, "I've got to help. You're on your own." Because knowing what older sisters are like at that point, you...
How many older sisters do you have?
I'm the oldest.
Oh, you're the older sister.
I know what I was doing.
That's even better.
So it's, you know, but it's that type of thing. We're going to teach you how to do it. We're going to show you some of the tricks, and then we're going to expect you to do it on your own. Okay, so we've got 4 kitchens, which means we can have 4 different businesses at the same time working at each of our shifts. We are open 24/7. So usually in this kitchen, which is kitchen A, we'll have somebody who is a caterer. There's some, they can be making jams, they can be making frying foods. A lot of hot sauce makers use this kitchen. I'll show you the reason they love this kitchen. In addition to it being the only kitchen with a burner, this is a 40-gallon stock pot.
Oh my.
So you can make a lot of hot sauce in there. We have 2 baking kitchens. You start with the smallest mixer, which is 20 quart, and then you go all the way up to Big Bertha, as I call her, who's 80 quart. This is R2D2. So you put there's a form that goes in here. You put the dough on top, you press it down, it cuts it into the sizes, and then by pressing this lever, it'll then roll the dough like this.
Wow.
This is our mechanical rolling pin.
Oh wow.
So for all those times where people are sitting there rolling like this, which is great for those underarm muscles, you don't do it anymore. I'm sorry. First of all this stuff is heavy. Okay, they shouldn't be buying it. Each of those trays is $7. If you use 30 to 60 in a shift, that's a lot of money that you have to have. And then what do? You bring them back and forth and back and forth. No, so we have all of that. We really look to have equipment. The one thing I do not have is knives. And my attitude is, if you are a professional, you are going to have your own knives.
And what's your business? It's called the Breadivore Bakery. We do sourdough bread, and these are yeasted. These are not sourdough, but they are the colors from paprika. We only sell at farmers market right now.
How did you end up at the Entrepreneur Suites?
Well, I mean, this is the one of the rental kitchens people know about across New York City. You don't find that many rental kitchens in general, especially with a big oven.
Yeah.
With so much bigger space. And if you talk to the culinary people, they probably will guide you here.
Yeah, so it's well known.
Yeah, it's very well known.
This is one of the pieces of equipment you were asking for. This is a Vanguard hearth oven, and this is used, people like Seishu use it. She's going to be using but if you notice, it looks like a huge pizza oven, but it's a little bit higher end on that. You have a bottom heat, a top heat, and then you have steam injection in here. So this is really what bread bakers want to use. This is one of the best ovens around for baking. You can put in 30 full-size sheet pans at the same time.
So they put them on the racks.
They put them on a rack, and it goes right in, and then it rotates. So anybody who is a baker at home knows that you have to rotate your pans. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. And now we're talking about rotating a lot. At one time, the heat is diffused. It's not coming from the top or the bottom. It's coming all the way down. These are the spikes that have the heat on them. and this is coming straight down, so you're getting heat going straight across. So each of the baking kitchens, kitchen B or kitchen C, use these ovens. They each get their own oven, so they use this oven. We've got proofers, and this is where, again, somebody who's doing breads would most likely put their bread in here at a very low heat and then turn around and let it rise. Now to the back of house part that's not so exciting but so important. We've got a parking lot. Makes it easier for the client. Then we've got refrigeration and storage. People will rent on a monthly basis space, or sometimes if they're just here occasionally, they'll rent a shelf or two for a day. So we know that their product is not going to go bad. We are protecting their product as well and watching it as well as they would. Myself and Patricia are constantly trolling for new information, constantly getting e-blasts, from other organizations. We're looking to pass it on. So the example of your grant that I sent you, the example of this other woman who makes a Thai hot sauce, we're happy to share our knowledge. We're happy to give it away. Knowledge is no good if it is held closely within one person. It has to be shared. This is what it's really all about, and that's what an incubator is. It's that whole picture. Our job is to get you to a point where you are fiscally sound and able to leave. We're here to nurture and support. We're not here to enable. We want people to leave us.
So can you tell me a little bit about kind of how the QEDC began, or how you began with the QEDC?
Sure, it came together at the same time. The Queens
I figured that.
the Queens Economic Development Corporation was founded in 1977 when the city was a different place. And it was formed by government leaders, civic leaders in Queens to really upgrade the economy, which was a mess then in the 70s, late 70s. It was funded by federal funds, some city money, to really help neighborhoods in Queens become revitalized. I was hired as a second or third hire, I guess, in 1979. It took a while to get some money to have that flowing. And our first programs were to do commercial revitalization, neighborhood development. And in Astoria, we do work in Steinway Street, we work in Woodside, St. Albans, Ridgewood, neighborhood shopping streets. And in the next 10 years to about 1990, our focus was always neighborhood development, but it shifted because we realized you can't build a neighborhood without building small businesses. And it's hard to think about it now, but in those days, there were no programs to provide small business assistance, nowhere to go, some here and there. So we developed the first business development program for retail businesses, neighborhood-based businesses. Wrote a guidebook, before computers, a handwritten guidebook called Mind Your Own Business, How to Start Your Small Business. And we focused on that. In addition to developing neighborhoods, the foundation is individual one-on-one business counseling. And that's what we're known for the last 44 years, 45 years. In that time, we've expanded our operations and our programming. We have funding from the city, the state, the feds. They raise money, foundation money. We do a number of programs. One is the entrepreneur space. As you know, it's the food incubator in the city. It's 10 years old this year, which is a miracle in many ways because it's an expensive operation to run, and we've served a lot of businesses there. We have a women's business center helping women, but open to anybody, but it's focused on helping women start their small business. We have an entrepreneur assistance center, which is like a mini MBA, 20 sessions, you write a business plan. We've started business competition every year, the last 14 years, funded originally by Citibank, now it's funded by Resorts World, New York City, and Jamaica, where people can write a business plan, day-to-day classes, write a business plan, and we get about 100 entries every year. 4 businesses win in 4 different categories: technology, sustainability, community, and food. And that's a great program because it gives money away. It's a grant, a $10,000 grant per business. We also have a program called Made in Queens, MIQ, helping small artisan manufacturers sell their products in a pop-up store for about 6 months long on city. Now we do other pop-ups when we can do pop-up, it's not online.
Oh, how
Um,
wonderful.
we have also tourism. Queens, when we started the organization back in the late 70s, we had a tourism committee. And selling tourism in Queens in 1980 was, people would giggle hysterically. Now it's a thing in the last 10 years. And we've hired a wonderful guy, Rob Mackay, who is Mr. Queens in many ways. He's taking charge of that. And he promotes the borough in ways we never thought possible. And Queens is really it's the most diverse place in the world, language, culture, cuisine. So we highlight all those things. In 2015, we named Lonely Planet's Destination of the Year. But our focus is basically small business and then our audience, women, minorities, immigrants, veterans, low and moderate income. That's our world. I always say no one comes to us with $1 million in venture capital to do high tech. They want to open a cookie business. They want to sell, shoes in the neighborhood. They want to they want to expand from a vending cart to a store to sell gloves and that type of thing. So to that end, we're really helping people who may not anywhere to go. And most of our services are free because of the funding we get. Some are revenue based, like the entrepreneur space, but we keep costs to a minimum. We know our clientele. Uh, since last March, like everyone else, we've shifted. Everything's remote and online, and we've had good success. All our programs that were in person are now taught online, and some of them done better than they were when they were in person. So in the future, we may do a hybrid program. Things that have developed. I've been with the group. I was there for 10 years. I left for about 15 years, but except for 6 years out of state, I've always been involved in New York City government. I worked for Queensborough President Claire Schulman, Helen Marshall, really at LaGuardia College for a while. So I've always kept my fingers on the pulse of local economic development issues in Queens. And one thing which has been a wonderful side effect of what we do, and personally it means so much to me, is we work with disenfranchised populations. Case in point, you may know about the incubator of the Fortune Society. I don't know if Catherine mentioned that program. And it's been so great. We didn't plan that, but we had 5 employees who went through Fortune, and they'll take a bullet from me. I'm humbled to work with them. Working with in the incubator too, we work with a number of clients who have children with disabilities. Love Michael, you may have heard about, started the incubator. A child with autism, an adult with autism, parents needed a way to continue it, and they opened a business in Soho after Tribeca, after 6 years of the incubator. And there are other stories like that. We developed a program in Jamaica called Prime Skills. We developed a program to teach people how to open a home-based business, the rules, regulations, and they some of them went on. We have a young woman, Julia Otley, whose idea was to make pre-mixed cocktail party catering, cocktails and snacks. And she won $10,000 last year with a women's development program. I just got an email this morning. One of our veterans in the program was doing a food business. He opened a food cart, interestingly enough, right before the pandemic by Hudson Yards. And he thought it would be difficult. Turns out there's so much construction going on there. Well, the restaurants are closed. He's done quite well. I just got the email at 10 minutes before your email. And I have to get back to him because it's really exciting because didn't think would happen. We also do innovative programs because we're small and we're nimble. And honestly, I'm not a very good bureaucrat. I do stuff first and then maybe apologize later if it's not the right thing.
That's been my strategy my whole life.
I know,
Love
great
that.
MO.
Yes.
We did one program we did with the Street Vendor Project, which is a great organization. And it was about 6 years ago. We realized there were a lot of street vendors, many of them live in Queens.
Yes.
And there was a community of street vendors, mostly from Nepal, Bhutan, north of India, south of China, Tibet, who did with the artists down in Manhattan by Times Square, Battery Park, doing pictures, sketching people. They didn't know English, and their English is quite poor. they were doing all this in cash, which made them vulnerable for theft. And a lot of tourists don't carry cash, they carry credit cards. We did a simple program, how to use their cell phones with Square to take credit card payments. And it was like a whole new world. They could do more business, it was safe, they weren't carrying cash. And we did that and turned around real fast. Another program we did, which is very successful, is a home improvement contractor training, HICT. And it all starts with funny stories, I think, because we do business counseling. This is 8 years ago. A gentleman comes into the office, Chinese from Flushing. He's a contractor, says he's a contractor. He wants a business loan. He said, great, let's look at your books. What books? Everything's cash in a shoebox. I'm not kidding. He drove a Range Rover. He wasn't poor. He knew how to build stuff, but terrified of government, as many immigrants are, because where they came from, government was not helpful. That's why they left. So we realized there's a market to train people how to take the city contracting test, public consumer affairs. And we applied for a contest in New York City EDC, won a good sum of money, $100,000, to do this program. And then we did it. We started doing it for free, but then we started charging for it when the money ran out. And we do it every 3 to 6 times a year, English, Spanish, and Chinese. I think 99% of people who take our class pass the test and go on to become contractors, licensed contractors. We have 7 counselors on staff who provide one-on-one counseling. We go to classes. We have specialists in different areas of a guy in finance, a woman in marketing, a real diverse group of skill bases and experience, from young counselors who are really good to people who've been there, done that. Most of my staff has been raised in Queens, and most of my staff are people who came from other countries. Loretta and myself are the only ones who remember the Kennedy assassination. That's our age. No one else was born around then. So it's a history, it's in the history book. But the younger people I work with, they speak so many languages. And I have Bobna, who was born in Indian heritage, born in Africa, raised in London, came here, went to LaGuardia College. Andrea, who's Ecuadorian immigrant, started as a minimum wage person in my office, going to high school, and now she's director of the business center. Ricardi Calix, deputy director, came from Haiti when he was 8 years old, so snow the first time, master's degree, and he speaks different French and Creole. One thing about being small business assistance agency, and I always tell my staff this because it's hard sometimes, how as a small business consultancy, we're the midwife. We help people get started, they go on, and they forget the midwife. Who's the midwife? We help them get there, and they move on. And sometimes it's hard, but other times it's so wonderful. I run into somebody about 2 years ago at a seminar on LaGuardia Community College, and there's that small business. Another woman's on stage with me. She looks familiar, but I can't place her. Talking about her home care business. And I realized that's Gloria, who was in our class like 8 years ago. And she recognized me. She said, I have 6 employees and doing this and doing that. It's like, well, let us know. This was so great. Our chairman of the board, Emily Lynn, is she's not retired, but business so well. She was a young woman then, and she's an architect. She knew how to design new stuff and build, but she didn't know how to make it a business. She took our EAC class and became a business woman, very, very successful. And she's a number of apartment houses she's developed with a partner, and she credits the Queens EDC as helping it. Another client, Anita Saravastia, who was also a client about 10 years ago. She was making fabrics based on Indian motifs, but she was like technology. She entered our small business competition, did not win it, but she gained a lot of knowledge. And about 7 years ago, she morphed from fabrics to technology. Long story short, her company is doing very well. She formed a technology fund to fund minority people who want to go into technology. And she's now one of the funders of our startup program. And it's a great story.